the situation may look like there are few who are getting, others are not getting. But, Mr. Speaker, we must not lose sight on some historical factors that have led to where we are, that have created a bit of disparities, Mr. Speaker. Were it not of this constitution that we have, which is trying to bring a bit of check and balance on the way we have been employing people in this country. But, Mr. Speaker, we also should not lose sight that this report is biased in the sense that they have only brought in the public sector. They haven't addressed the issue of the private sector. So when we're speaking about employment, and I don't know what they are going to do or why they avoided to consult the private sector. I know some of the private sector and NGOs will practice what our constitution dictates. But from that perspective, when we are talking about cohesiveness in terms of employment, then it need be very broad. And if it means then finding a way of even addressing the same matter with the private sector, so be it. But, Mr. Speaker, also we should look as to why people are employed in that place. Specialized institutions, whether private or public, they will look at the qualifications, not where you come from. You can go to an Nairobi hospital, you're going to find so many people from Nyanza, professors and doctors. It's common sense. So if they're specialized in that area, we cannot say that, no, let's go and get some other people who are, so that they can fill the gap. So qualification is very key. And some of our public institutions dictates that we look at the qualifications. Mr. Speaker, I come from a very highly cosmopolitan constituency. My constituency have all the 44 tribes or whatever you call them in there. I have Luos there. I have Kikuyus there. I have Merus there. I have Merus from Tigania, Merus from Egembe, Merus from Dhalaka, Merus from Chuka. I have Embu, I have people from everywhere in the country, Mr. Speaker. Now, I cannot say I'm not going to employ so and so because I am supposed to fulfill a certain aspect. So that I will be said, I am. But also, I have to be careful because the population, there are certain tribes in my constituency, a larger population. The diversity of my community dictates how people will be absorbed in the private sector or in the public sector that are operating in my constituency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of information, yes, there are so many people who don't get a lot of information. Right now, the Public Service Commission is setting out their website. How many people have the digital capacity to access the PSC portal to know what kind of employment are there? You realize people in Nairobi will get it very fast. People with iPhones will get it. People with smartphones will get it. People with relatives in Nairobi will get it. Members of parliament will get it. But there are those poor kings out there in the village who have no information. Meaning, those available are the ones who are going to give out the information and apply. So, the committee need to be sensitive on those matters. High population areas with high population densities, it's national. We cannot say we are going to ignore that. If we have to put a weight or some measures you'll find some will be more than the others. I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, that we haven't reached a point where we say we have gotten it 100%. We can try and play politics with some of these things. And the report of the committee need to address those factors, not the obvious. You walk into an institution, how many laws are here, how many canvassers are here, how many mayors are here. You are given the report, how many lawyers are here. I don't believe that will sort out the problem. I don't believe that will sort out the problem. Mr. Speaker, some of these things even require long-term thinking. The way our economy is growing, the public sector is shrinking every day in this country. Sooner or later, we'll find ourselves with a very small public sector. So are we going to be fighting? And that's, we say, the whole entire constitution to address a very small sector. I mean, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, we have to start looking at other things from another perspective. Mr. Speaker, there are some jobs. Some religions will not agree. There are some sectors, some people, because of their religion, they will not agree. Mr. Speaker, there are some people on Saturdays, they don't work. Mr. Speaker, because of their religion. Others, you have to dress like this. So please, let's have a comprehensive report. Let's not look at numbers and the names. O, K, Kamau, Otieno, Kiblangat. No, let's try and avoid that kind of a conversation because I foresee, Mr. Speaker, going forward, we need to expand our private sector to create more jobs, to create more opportunities so that people will not be fighting for the small, shrinking public sector. Some of these private institutions, Mr. Speaker, the wage law is so large and they are collapsing. Even you go to counties also, they have so much wage law. If we talk about employment, I believe the framers of the Constitution did not say that because we have this, we should follow this. Or what they were saying, we try a balancing act, which is dictated by so many factors, and we cannot avoid them. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a good report, but I think we have to do good justice to this country. Please, let's do more things. Some of the private or public institutions, Mr. Speaker, are dying because they have a tribe managing the entire institution. That is bad. That is bad by all standards. We have had some institutions, universities even, from top to bottom. All the hands on the they are there. That is wrong. If that is what we are talking about in this report, I agree. I agree. But there are some others that now, when you look at the factor, we look qualification, we look at the region, some of this report here, let's not play politics with some of these reports to prove that there are many mayors here. They need to be removed so that we can have some others here and there. To me, that's not the politics, and that's not discussion that we would like to have and engage in this house. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
As Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi, you are done. Do you want to be informed? In fact, that question does not lie because Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi ascended his contributions. The Honorable Anthony Madenga, MP for Marytown, you want to contribute to this? Nyeri Town.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am a member of the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities Committee. And the representation by my friend, Honorable Rindikiri, is far from the truth in terms of the depth of involvement that the committee engages with the different government institutions, commissions, and sagas. We not only look at the numbers, we ask for documents, and the mandate of the committee extend beyond looking at the employment diversity, which literally is looking at the representation of the community, all Kenyan communities in public employment. It is imperative to note that the threshold set in law is not more than 30%. While largely, from a historical perspective, the benchmark from when we started this audit is the year 2012. But after the year 2012, COVID happened. There have been freezes in employment. And the requirement is for us to put in place measures that accord the underrepresented or underrepresented communities to have affirmative action for onboarding. And those measures cannot be put only by the committee. It is the responsibility of this House. Honorable Speaker, as my friend Honorable Ridikiri has put it, the employment in the public sector has been shrinking. And therefore, there is the question that we need to face as this House, as to whether we want to look at employment only based on the public sector employment, because we know jobs are shrinking. What about the reality of digital space? What about the reality of digitization? The framers of our Constitution in 2010 had never thought about the digital space and the disruptions that COVID came up with. And Honorable Speaker, we are in the process, we have made recommendations as a committee for the amendments of the National Cohesion and Integration Act, so that the realities of the circumstances under which we are operating are aligned with the current realities in the job space. Honorable Speaker, it is true that this requirement that we advertise all jobs online, while it is good in terms of creating transparency, it is also disenfranchising very many Kenyans who cannot access the internet. And the issues we are having currently, where we require every Kenyan to register themselves in the SHA system, including a short code, and the problems we have faced, brings to the fore the challenges of accessing opportunities online. We have encouraged the government agencies to consider using local media in advertising vacancies. We have actually urged the government agencies to consider using the constituency offices of members of parliament to forward these adverts, because we have people everywhere across the country, and we have a presence across the country. Honorable Speaker, one of the other challenges is the 5% reservation for all public appointments to our persons living with disabilities. Yet, when we look at the state of the education institutions for persons living with disability, we should all be ashamed, because we have not developed any new institutions. The old institutions are all dilapidated, they are in shambles. The teachers and the instructors for these institutions are demotivated, they are demoralized, the institutions are not equipped. How can these people access opportunities while they cannot access education opportunities in this country? And therefore, I'm asking us to use this report to open our eyes as Parliament and support the recommendations we will be bringing here, both in supporting the education institutions for persons living with disabilities as well as better equipping the schools and institutions for persons living with a disability. Honorable Speaker, I support the report of the committee.
The Honorable Kikai Bisau, you cannot inform a member who has ended their contribution. I wish you intervened before he sat and confirmed he has ended. And number two, you can also not inform him when he does not agree to be informed. And he cannot agree because he has ended his contribution. So, the Honorable Ambassador Francis Sigei.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa pia kuchangia mjadala hii kuhusu mambo ambaye kamati imetupatia siku ya leo. Na niseme tu ya Bwana Spika ya kwamba tungependa kwanza tushukuru kamati kwa kazi ambao wamefanya. Wamechukua muda mrefu kutafuta information na mambo ya baya yanakuwa yanatakikana kwa hii ripoti. Na mimi Bwana Spika, ningependa kuunga mkono mjadala hii na kupongeza kamati. Na ningependa Bwana Spika tujue ya kwamba Kenya imebadilika, katiba ni tofauti, watu lazima waajibike na kuhakikisha kwamba katiba, mambo ya katiba hii inatimishwa vile inatakikana. Bwana Spika, naunga mkono.
The Honorable Joanna Ngeno, Chairman, Departmental Committee in charge of Housing.
Thank you, Speaker. I can see my brother, Mheshimiwa Wamboka, not Kwamboka, of course, Wamboka, signaling that maybe
Private, because I think the Constitution is slightly silent on the mandate of this Constitution, of this committee, whether we are able to look at the private sector also. But since we are coming up with the amendment of the bill, and then I think the House can guide and include also the private sector. But what the committee looked at is employment diversity in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, race, religion, disability, and also socio-economic backgrounds. That is what is emphasized. Yesterday, as members were contributing, they talked a lot about levels of classes or levels of employment. If you look at the complete report, we have senior level, middle cadre level, and lower level. So when we talk of a university in somewhere in Western, which I mentioned yesterday, and raised some very hot discussions, that 78% is from one ethnic community. If somebody wants to look at the levels, it is there in the full report. Please check. You'll find out that maybe majority are in the lower cadre. But what the Constitution says is all cadre, diversity and equal opportunity in all cadres. It does not tell us the lower cadre, the higher cadre. This is the second report. I tabled the first report before this one, and it's still in the process somewhere. And that first report is the one that covers majority of the bigger institutions such as KRA and those. Also, there was a debate on statistics of merging communities together like Mijikenda yesterday. Look at the Kenya Bureau of Standard. That is where we derive our levels of ethnic communities. Population ratios. The highest community in Kenya, as far as its national population is concerned, is 17%. And the law allows up to 30% to be taken by one community, of employment to be taken by one community. We are coming with an amendment of the law and saying that maximum a community can take is 20%. If the highest is 17% in terms of population, and we have even added 3%, then there should be no complaint. Well, if we are looking at equity and equality, we are going to have more reports. Every quarter, at least, we are going to have more reports, and we will see. I am also requesting this committee when the new law, that is the National Cohesion Integration Bill 2023, will be discussed here, to support it and include whatever small issues like private sector issue, like decreasing or increasing the quota system. Honorable Speaker, in this country today, we have crisis of employment. It's a time bomb we are sitting on, particularly on the youth. And trying to expand employment should be our priority. Otherwise, it is very dangerous. You see what Gen Z did to us the other day. It's because they are unemployed. Majority of them are unemployed. If they were unemployed, they could not have had time to come and attack the parliament or these institutions. With those few remarks, I stand
Honorable
to move.
Chair, there is a matter which arose during the debate yesterday,
Yeah.
which had something to do with the business parliament transacted around this matter of the motion. You remember this matter of Kenya Revenue Authority officers?
Yes.
And you remember the CS was privileged to be in parliament here to answer to it. It was alleged yesterday that that matter went to court.
Yes.
The court nullified those employment on account of these matters you're dealing with. And that despite even the court order, those people are all working in defiance of the Article 232 of the Constitution, which are pushing through this motion.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, Mr.
And as you reply, how do you want to deal with that? Then there was also the issue of balance in public service within the parliamentary service. How soon are you doing a report around that? Because I can tell you, it is being murmured by members of various communities outside here.
Yeah.
And you know, for obvious reasons, they cannot speak aloud lest they be,
Okay.
lest they face some consequences, which may not be good. But there are communities which are saying they are not being employed in parliament. Those of them who are in parliament are not being promoted. Promotions come, even where they are qualified, they are just stagnant. And we are having makondes within parliament. And you know, I'm saying this one you need to make a comment on in terms of how fast you want to go into parliamentary service, and also have a report here so that we can be a good example as the institution that makes these laws we are seeking also to help be implemented. What do you say to those two?
Okay, the first one, Kenya Revenue Authority, I think it was this committee which raised the first red flag. And there were even attempts by bigger authorities to try to stop Kenya Revenue Authority not to come to this committee. But ultimately we did it. We were the first one to raise, and it went to the papers, and that is where whoever took them to court got the information from. And it is true that the court has ruled that that was illegal, and it was actually illegal. And what they did was to appeal. And therefore, the court gave them time until the matter is concluded, then the status quo can remain. And that is why those employees are still there. And you know the court sometimes takes too long. If it was within the powers of this committee, we could have concluded it long ago. But it's now within the court, and therefore matters in court, we are also told not to indulge in it so much.
Okay, and then a report on the parliamentary service,
Report on the parliamentary service.
particularly staff from the community. I come from are lamenting a lot.
Yeah. You know, the committee writes to institutions through parliament. Yeah? When I'm writing to Kenya Revenue Authority or any other institution, it is not me who signs the letter. It is the clerk of the National Assembly who signs the letter. I have already written to the clerk of the National Assembly to write a letter to Parliamentary Service Commission to appear before the committee so that we can do the same, what we have done to all other institutions. And I'm waiting for the feedback. And because of the curiosity that is here in the House today, come tomorrow, I'll walk to the clerk's office and make sure we fast track it, have a meeting with the Parliamentary Service Commission, and then table the report as soon as possible. Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for a very good report, well presented by your committee and yourself on their behalf before the floor. Next order. Before I call for next order,